Welcome to the Hired Not Fired podcast, brought to you by The Real Me, the soft skills first talent solution that helps employers hire entry-level employees with better developed soft skills, such as communication, problem solving, or emotional intelligence. Join us as we sit down with hiring managers, talent leaders, and others and get insider tips to help Gen Z stand out and get hired. Let's dive in. My guest today, I'm really excited to introduce Stephanie Steele. Stephanie is currently Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition Programs at Rapid7. She spent the majority of her career in the early career recruiting space, starting her career as a campus recruiter at a marketing technology company. Stephanie's passionate about helping companies engage with students and bridging the gap between university experience and the workplace. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we're delighted to have someone with your experience come in and share some of your insight and perspectives. But first, can you tell us a little bit about Rapid7?
Yeah. So Rapid7, we're a global cybersecurity company. We're headquartered in Boston. Today we're at about 2,500 employees. We're also publicly traded, so we went public in 2015. And really what we do is partner with companies to identify vulnerabilities and keep them essentially safe from hackers. So really cybersecurity at its core.
That's great. So important in these days, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, in hiring, what is the number one thing you look for in early career candidates? Things that, influence whether you'll pull this one out of the stack of resumes that you get and invite them to an interview or hire them.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, when just looking at resumes and not having met the person, especially when we're talking about technical jobs, experience is something that we look for a lot, and it doesn't always have to be direct experience like internships, et cetera, because if you're applying for an internship, you might not have a ton of experience ahead of you. But we look for people who have just been able to balance between, university and maybe a part-time job, or if you do have that internship experience, and also just any sort of like customer service type roles, that's always applicable, no matter what type of job you're going into. So by just looking at the resume, in addition to any sort of technical skills, we're looking at, experience and sort of someone who's well versed in different things.
That's helpful to know. What do you think about all the headlines and the buzz in the media? I've been reading a lot about saying that Gen Z isn't prepared for the workforce, that their soft skills such as communication, problem solving, and emotional intelligence aren't fully developed yet. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think, and we talked about this a little bit, Deb, like I think every generation ultimately is going to have its own flaws, because every generation is made up of different experiences depending on, what society looked like at that time, or, what are the big life events that are happening. So I think that all of it is something that people can work on, but I think ultimately employers, when they're looking at talent coming through, we really have to figure out, well, how can they add value to our organization? And then where are the areas that we maybe need to meet them where they're at and figure out how to develop those gaps. So whether that's new learning and development tools that we need, training managers on how to, what this generation is like. There are certain things that sort of we owe to that next generation of talent. But I do think that every generation is going to have its own gaps in terms of skills, and not to say it's right or wrong. I just think it has to do with just the experiences that everyone goes through.
Yeah, that's right. And we did have a good conversation about this, how it's also a function of age and life experience,
Yep.
and that they are skills that can be developed. It's not something you either have or you don't have. So
Right.
that's great. So I imagine you get a lot of resumes for entry level positions, right? What's
hmm
one pet peeve or common mistake that you've seen in their applications?
Yeah. And I was thinking about this a little bit, and I would say There's plenty, but I would say number one is if you have like an objective on your resume or you're going to write up a cover letter specifically to a company, really making sure that that's customized to the role that you're applying to. It's such a maybe a nitpicky thing, but there's nothing worse than being, looking through a group of software engineering resumes and finding that someone's objective is to be a financial analyst at this other company. Because I'm just like, ooh, like, even if you look great, like that's such a ding and it's just a poor experience for whoever is viewing your resume. So
Mm-hmm.
I think like if you can avoid having those things, especially if you're going to apply to a plethora of different types of roles, which is totally fine to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going to have them, just make sure that you're, customizing every single resume for what the job is that you're entering it in for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, how about a pet peeve or an issue in the interview stage?
Oh, that's a good question. Similarly, just really honing in on the company that you're interviewing for. I've had several instances where, and I understand completely, especially in the early career space, you're typically interviewing for a lot of different jobs at the same time, and it's overwhelming. But I've had plenty of times where someone says the wrong company to me, like, how long have you been working at? And it's not Rapid7. So just keeping that in mind, it's a totally understandable mistake because I get it. There's a lot going on. But just making it really like when you're in that interview or when you're in that office space, really just getting yourself to be fully there and not in somewhere else.
Yeah, great advice. I love it. One of the problems today is that resumes, whether they're written by AI or by the candidate, they're still at the end of the day just words on paper.
Mhm.
How can these candidates prove their soft skills? The ones who know soft skills are important, they've been working on them. How can they show, how can they stand out? Would you consider, so at The Real Me, we offer courses to help people develop their soft skills. Would seeing course completion badges and certificates on their resume, or we have our card that's a URL that shows it, would that be helpful?
Yeah, and I think any sort of proof, for lack of a better term, just to say that you've worked on particular things or that you've identified a gap and then this is what you've done to work through it. So yeah, any sort of training or development that you've gone through is always important. And typically, if that were on your resume, I'm sure an interviewer might ask you to talk a little bit about it and maybe give some examples. So just having some talking points to align with your experience going through um, the soft skill development is helpful.
Yes, that is great advice. Being prepared to talk about it, not just say you took this course, but
Yes.
being able, that's great. Let's pause there. So far, Stephanie shared why attention to detail matters more than you think, how to avoid resume and interview missteps, and why soft skills can't just be buzzwords on a page. In part 2, we'll talk about how to prove you've got those soft skills, how networking can open doors, and what not to do, like ghosting your recruiter. Stay tuned. Part 2 drops in 2 days.